You are now tuned into the sounds of
Big Nate Sports Talk.
It's on all the time, anytime.
Sitting looking back on all the times we shared, when I acted like I just didn't really care, and it wasn't fair. You stood by me, girl, when I was so untrue. But this is my promise, girl, I give to only you. Let me be the one, you the one you come running to. When you need me, I'll be there, just to let you know that I do care. Baby, I promise, girl, I promise, I'll always be true. And baby, I promise, girl, I promise you that I'll be right here for you, no matter the problem, baby. I'll stand by your side, be right by your side. We share can never be denied.
You are now tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy. Hello, good evening. It is your host, Nathan Snell of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode 430 of the podcast. I hope each and every one of you are doing well. It's Nathan Snell here. Happy New Year. I know it's been a couple weeks. Last video was actually before the new year. In this episode, we are talking about the Baltimore Ravens recap wild card victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers this weekend. Yes, it is not a ruse. This is the first time I've gone live since before Super Bowl 47 a couple years ago. Sean Spencer, what's going on, sir? Good to see you. I was just like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go live. 4:31 will be live again tomorrow as well with the Washington Commanders victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maryland women's basketball as well as an upcoming couple days. They just won last night against ranked number 24 Minnesota, and they're getting ready for Texas this upcoming Monday as they travel to New Jersey for the Coretta Scott King basketball tournament. So there's a lot to get into. In this episode, I do have one final thought, and it is regarding the national media, because there was a couple things coming into this matchup that was said that was very, very disturbing to hear, but as always, not surprising. As you already know, it was an interesting wild card weekend. The Chargers were eliminated, the Vikings were eliminated, and the Washington Commanders and the Baltimore Ravens advance into the divisional round of the playoffs. I'm super excited. I'm still a little on the optimistic side of seeing how things are. As we face the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills did defeat the Denver Broncos and what felt like a one-sided game, 31-7. But for us, Saturday, eventually it was going to come down to this, and Baltimore winning the last game of the regular season against those Cleveland Browns to win the AFC North and watch Pittsburgh kind of collapse the last couple weeks of the season. This, to me, I felt like this was kind of the final showdown. Everybody, in a way, picked Pittsburgh to win the AFC North. I was told that for me, at the beginning of the season, when Justin Fields kind of took over for Russell Wilson, this offense was quote unquote missing something, and then they kind of see how they looked. And in fairness, they've had injuries. T.J. Watt really wasn't 100%. Cam Hayward wasn't 100%. They didn't have George Pickens for a couple games. But for us, the Ravens, they were peaking at the right time, I think, to finish strong the way they did, especially come off the bye week. I thought this has been some of the best football that I have seen in quite some time. But the final score for the wild card victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers. The final score was 28-14. want to start on the Pittsburgh side of the ball. I'm not going to go that far just as yet. We'll probably talk about that in a future episode. But for Pittsburgh side, listen, I really do think that this experiment kind of quote unquote failed. To me, the game was really over after the first possession. Raviol Sports, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I'll get to that in just a little bit, in just a minute. But I think this game was really over. Just the way how Baltimore established the run early, especially on the one play where Derek, if you remember a few years ago, as Raven fans, when we played the Tennessee Titans, that's when Derrick Henry was with us, and he did this. It is the exact same play that happened to Earl Thomas. That's what it looked like. We did to Minka Fitzpatrick Saturday. And in fairness, there was just a lot of holes. And also, I want to say this too. I don't like to hear after a game any play. I mean, injuries are part of the game, yes. But they put out on Patrick Queen, obviously former Baltimore Raven. They put out at Monday that Sunday, that he was battling the flu. Well, I respectfully, I don't want to hear that. If he was well enough to play, he was well enough to play. Their defense, I just think, was just worn out. There was a point where Cam Hayward went out because I think he's evaluated, if I remember correctly, for a head injury. I knew something wasn't right with him because the way he kind of walked going into halftime is very stiff. I was very surprised that TJ Watt did not record a sack in that game. I think TJ Watt's one of the best defensive linemen in the game. To not have a sack in the game, that can't happen. I mean, they just looked worn as the game progressed to me, and the offense didn't do much better neither. I thought exactly when he slapped Minka on the right, I knew the game was over. Exactly, and also there was a couple of times I questioned the decision making. There was the one possession, it's Pittsburgh's ball, and Pat Frymuth, great, it's a good catch, but he's short. It's 4th and inches, but they decided to punt. I'm a little confused by that. I'll let you know what the decision maker was behind that and why he didn't go for it. And those 2 touchdowns, I'm being honest, that was lack of communication. And sure, I mean, but the offense didn't do anything. They didn't generate anything. Ben, good evening, good to see you. I don't know. It just is very disappointing for me. And I think listening to them today, as I'm recording this, I mean, as this is live, excuse me, I do expect Pittsburgh to have some changes. Mike Tomlin's not going to be fired. Let me make that very, very clear. Now, as someone who is a proponent of wanting change, and I'm also somebody who's a proponent of holding guys accountable, I think Mike Tomlin is a good coach. But this is beyond Mike Tomlin. This is an organizational thing. I've noticed this really since 2018, maybe 2017. Pittsburgh does not like change. They're very content with how things go. I mean, yes, Mike Tomlin's had a winning record as head coach, all those different things like that. And the reality of it is playoff wins matter, and they haven't been successful doing that. And sure, you could say that it could be better, but if you do fire him, who you're replacing him with? And in fairness, I had to say the same thing about John Harbaugh. I know that maybe I've kind of last few weeks kind of stepped back and gone, well, some people make a good point, but it's more about front office ownership. Now, as far as the experiment with Russell Wilson, I still think Russell Wilson had his faults. Yes. Do I expect them to probably move on from Russell Wilson? That is the question that needs to be answered. More than likely, in my opinion, I would say yes, because you invested in both quarterbacks, and I'm more looking at Justin Fields, obviously, who's more younger. And I think he's shown he's very capable of being the starting quarterback for them. I mean, he showed you flashes when Russell was not there. I mean, he was 4-2, but I mean, I definitely feel like he could definitely be the guy for them going forward. And no disrespect to Russ, I still think Russ can still do something for an NFL team. But I just say the last couple of years in Denver, and I'm not going to put that first year on him, all on Russell's shoulders. Nathaniel Hackett, that hiring, that was a mess. And then Sean Payton, and that relationship didn't look well. But the offensive coordinator you've had from now Arthur Smith, you had Matt Canada, you had I want to say his name Fletchen, 3 offensive coordinators, and you thought he would have seen some stuff, but nothing's really truly progressed. I think Najee Harris is a good running back, but I think Jalen Warren's the number 1 running back for Pittsburgh going forward, in my opinion. I think George Pickens is a good receiver when he has his head on straight. That's not to take any shots at him. It's just the reality. I think there's a maturity piece that needs to take place there, and who knows? We'll see what that'll look like if you're him. But I do expect to be some changes next year, because the last couple of years there's definitely been some stuff with some issues in terms of you're right there, but you got to figure some things out. And I think they need another impact player. It would not hurt to make a trade, but we'll see how they would say. But again, in this game, you could definitely, again, staying healthy matters. And both of them, Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, God bless them, but they were on the field not 100%, and most definitely for 60 minutes that was some tough football. But on Baltimore side, Derrick Henry, I just think has been a godsend for us. And then again, I have to ask John Harbaugh the question when he made that statement at the beginning of the season. Well, we didn't bring Derrick Henry here to run the ball 20-something more carries a game. Well, do you regret making that statement now? Listen, we know how dynamic Lamar is as a quarterback, and I feel like for me, I think what's made Lamar's job so easy, and I think this is also this is something we've kind of advocated for Lamar since coming into the league. There's nothing wrong with having a star, like a game changer, somebody that changes the game for you, whether it's wide receiver, whether it's tight end, running back. Derrick Henry is doing things that respectfully J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards couldn't do. Now, Mark Ingram, when that year we won the division in Lamar's first MVP season, was doing some things. But when in terms of changing the pace of the offense, in terms of changing the style and the game plan, Derrick Henry makes everything kind of so easy for us. And especially when you watch coming into this year, and when we signed him, there was a lot of people within the media that were saying, well, he's going to have a down year. And at 30, his best yards per carry, almost 6 yards, that's pretty damn impressive. I mean, now if defenses have to figure out, okay, not only do I have to, especially there was one possession, and this is how I know how great of a player you are as a quarterback. When all the focus, there's one possession and it's given towards Derrick Henry. It might have been the possession where we scored, but it's obviously like it's an HB, it's a halfback counter. It's like it's like a fake where Lamar is going left. Patrick Queen, I can't remember the other two defensive players, but they're focused on Lamar, and they're not even paying, and they didn't even know, and they didn't pay attention to Derrick Henry. That's how I know you're great. When all the focus is even still on you, because in the way, if I remember correctly, he sold it, and it was in that 44-yard touchdown. If I remember that possession correctly. But also too, even others, Zay Flowers did not play in this game, and there was this Stephen A. Smith. He better not struggle without Zay Flowers. Well, Rashard Bateman, Mark Andrews, Justice Hill, they all stepped up when the Zay Flowers was not there. So we could definitely put that in your pipe and smoke it. Outside of it, and then I think the next positive for me was our defense. I thought being physical with Pittsburgh kept their offense in check. Darius Washington, I cannot speak to asserting him in the safety position and what he has done for us has been a turning point, has been just been a spark plug for us. The fact that I go back to that Pat Frymouth catch. Darius Washington is a $180. Frymouth's what, 250? And the fact that you kept him short on that third down pass, that was one of many hits that Darius had out on the game. Running backs, Najee Harris and Jalen, they were non-existent. They just physically wore them down. Matabike had two of the 4 sacks. Adafe had a sack and 3 hits. They just like physically just overwhelmed. And in fairness, Mason McCormick, who I think is a good interior offensive lineman for him, especially on that right side, they missed him. But again, we don't live in the world of what ifs. If he was there, but that made a difference, we don't know. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room were those 2 touchdowns. And Russell did keep them in the game with the 2 touchdowns, but they came in kind of bird times. The one of them was on that 95-yard drive where he found Van Jefferson. Who was defending him? SMU's Brandon Stevens. And then after he found Mike Williams for a 37-yard catch, remember that, and on possession. And then that next one, he got George Pickens had a step on Nate Wiggins and cut on the inside on Darius Washington. It was 28-14. That's, to me, those 2 possessions, I look back at film, was simply, to me, miscommunication. But also, too, I think, and I kind of noticed this, it was, I can't remember what game it was couple months ago, but it was kind of the same. I think it was a home game for us. It was one possession where Marlon Humphrey is in zone thinking that there's help. Instead, it's not thinking it's man-to-man coverage. I think, I'm not going to say what type of defense it was, but I just think what I saw was those 2 lapses on those 2 drives was simply lack of communication. Now, Russ did have success down the sideline against the corners, but defending the deep ball that I've watched for Baltimore really since the beginning of the season, that has been a concern for me. And I think that's going to be something I'm going to watch, especially when we play the Buffalo Bills. And that was pretty much it from my takeaways in terms of the game. Now, I mean, Lamar did his thing. Now, I understand, especially the whole playoff record thing, his playoff, I get it. But I didn't see too many flaws. I saw a quarterback that looks more controlled, that looks more relaxed, where the pressure's not on his shoulders. I mean, doing all the right things you want him to do, especially that going that last possession, especially where he found example of Isaiah Likely, 5 straight plays where Isaiah Likely, he caught it, got the ball, and they scored on the Justice Hill touchdown. Little things like that. He didn't turn the ball over, which is obviously something he has been criticized for in the playoffs, and it's granted. So I just think what I'm saying is he's locked in. But what I saw Saturday, I saw the team that's definitely peaking at the right time. And I'm really liking what I'm seeing. Now, it actually is funny because I believe, if I remember seeing this correctly, we're 5-0 now ever since the Eagle game where Lamar's mom, and shout out to Mama Jackson, shout out to Mama Tanya, where we're, since cussing him out, we're now 5-0. We did that. He was 82 yards on 14 carries. That's the most since October. So I believe he actually surpassed Steve Young. I want to say that correctly. But other than that, I mean, that was pretty much the game. those are pretty much my takeaways. I'm confident where this team is. Now, I'm obviously going to Buffalo. I know how good Josh Allen is. Last time we saw them, they were here. We beat them down, and I know it's not going to be like that. I know, especially playing there, it's a different atmosphere, the weather, fans, all that. And especially kind of where this conversation with MVP is, I'm kind of really at this point off that because I think both players, have had great years. And to me, they both do more for their teams. If you take both of these guys off their teams right now, I don't think there's the same amount of success that both are having now. Now, would I have liked to see the Denver Broncos beat the Bills? Yes, because Bo Nix, I think, definitely has had a good rookie season. He definitely should be in consideration for Rookie of the Year, but obviously my guy DC, shout out to Sean Spencer, and Mr. Jaden Daniels is definitely going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I'm excited. I feel like this right here, this matchup Saturday and Sunday between Baltimore and Buffalo, whoever wins this game, in my opinion, they're going to the Super Bowl. I just think the way how both teams right now are peaking, I just feel as though that they control their own destinies at this point. So I'm looking forward to it. So congratulations to the Baltimore Ravens. But more importantly, if I had to give a game ball, Derrick Henry obviously deserves one. The defense as a whole most definitely gets one. And then also too, we have to really sit here. I have to give the offensive line its credit. They did a really good job blocking upfield, especially creating holes for Derrick Henry. I know we've been on Daniel Falele, but he's definitely, I guess, some props. He's definitely been playing well. The whole line most definitely deserves some praises. Now we do have to work on the penalties. There's a couple holding penalties, and again, each officiating crew is different. Now, I know this officiating crew that's calling this game for the Bills and Ravens, the holding calls can be a bit excessive, but let's keep it real. The officiating across the board is trash. But to answer this question earlier, do you think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC? I think they are the best team, but that's up to the Baltimore Ravens because I've seen games this year where the Ravens opponents that they should have beaten, the Las Vegas Raiders, for example, when we were in Cleveland on the first matchup. Those are easable winnable games, almost losing to Dallas in Jerry World. Games where, to me, like that, nice to know that they should have won, but I still think that they are a reputable team to prepare against, and especially the way that this team's been peaking. This team right now, this last 4 weeks past the bye week, you should, in a sense, say they are the best team in the AFC. You should, just how they've been peaking at the right time. So I think Lamar wants to win the Super Bowl. I agree. Most definitely. I definitely agree. Because I definitely feel like, this is it's time. So most definitely. But outside of that, that was the game. And we're going to take a little break because I definitely want to get some things off coming into this matchup. Some of the things that were said on TV regarding the Ravens and Steelers matchup. We'll be right back with a little 30-second, a little minute break. Be right back. we're back. And what is this here? JD5 MVP, LOL. No, but not definitely, most definitely. This is actually going to be considered the one final thought of the podcast, and let's get right into it.
Thoughts are running through my mind, so I took some time to find a minute or two to organize them.
All right, the one final thought, obviously. So we all know kind of how the media has been, especially when it comes to Lamar Jackson. Is there a bias? Yes. Are people paid to give an opinion? Yes. Understand that. But I think coming into this game, I think some of the conversation was a bit disingenuous. Like, for example, I'm going to say Alex Smith said along the lines of the Steelers were playing with house money. And I'm looking like, well, wait a minute. What Steelers team have you been watching? And I'm not throwing shade on Pittsburgh. I'm just being honest. What have you been watching the last 4 weeks? Like, it's one thing if they were healthy and they were peaking themselves, okay, that's fine. But then when you go on another network, now using another network example, First Take, Lamar better not struggle without Zay Flowers. Well, there's games where Zay Flowers wasn't even targeted. Mark Andrews, Rashard Bateman, Tylan Wallace, Nelson Aguilar, Isaiah Likely, they've played a role in the Ravens' season success. Is Zay Flowers number one wide receiver? Yes. But it's just, I find it funny that even after we beat Pittsburgh, they use that in a way to start the conversation about moving on from Mike Tomlin. And I think that's kind of disingenuous because one can only imagine, and I mean, I've already seen it already, when we struggle. But I think sometimes for me, like, I'm beginning to understand where some things are just certain clickbait and some things are just said to just get views and attention. Because for me, like, Justin Herbert has yet to win a playoff game. The excuse was, well, there were 2 throws where it went in receiver's hands. It's an interception in the book. Now, could you? And I'm gonna use Jaden Daniels as an example. For the most part, everybody was on after they beat the Cincinnati Bengals week 3, week 4, if I remember correctly. MVP. He gets hurt. Commanders are kind of struggling, and now you don't hear him much. Now all of a sudden, everyone is talking, and I'll mention more about this in tomorrow's live episode with the Commanders. But like, Jaden's not the only reason of Washington's success. And my point is that I think we have to be better at when we're having conversations about what an outcome of a game is. You want to pick who's going to win the game, that's fine. When I think you're saying house money or they better not struggle without this receiver, when I'm watching a team, their opponent, injuries, they're not on the same page, and they've been kind of in the spell themselves. I just found that weird. So, and on top of that too, that same network for Espen didn't even really praise, but I don't really care for that. It is what it is because I already know the how it is when it comes to Lamar. But that's just my opinion. Again, Sunday I was more focused on church. Well, I didn't go to church. Please forgive me. I was focused on the Commanders game. Now, please, you're more than welcome, Sean. Send me what they said. I'm talking about on Monday, Tuesday, and as of today. That's what I'm talking about. Because we all know Monday and Tuesday, that's where all the hot topics come about. So that's my one final thought. I just thought that was just kind of weird that coming into the week, most people knew Baltimore was going to win. Was there some nervousness? Sure. But I think that's always going to happen because you don't know what the team's going to look like, especially come playoff time. Everything resets at 0. And I'm not gonna lie, I was sitting there like I wasn't expecting them to come out looking like that. Like that might be the second worst game I've seen the Pittsburgh Steelers. The last time I've seen that was when they lost to Kansas City in the wild card game a couple years ago. That was bad. Oh, I'm talking about fans who are saying MVP about JD5, but fans who fans. Oh, absolutely. I know what you mean. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So glad you're live. Yes. But that's my one final thought. Are there some genuine people in the national media when it comes to the Ravens, the Commanders, other teams? Yes. But also too, there are also people who are going to say things to piss people off and get attention, get clicks, and get views. And some people have an agenda. But my biggest thing is don't take it with a grain of salt, but also keep receipts. That's how I look at it. Is Mike Tomlin out in Pittsburgh? No, he is not. He should not be. I don't see why. I don't think Mike Tomlin is the issue. I think it's above Mike. I think it's front office. I think it's ownership. But if you look historically with the Steelers, even going back to when they had me, Joe Green, those guys, wasn't a lot of change. And that's kind of been Pittsburgh's thing. Now, personally, if I'm being honest, I think Big Ben stayed around too long. They should have drafted a quarterback. And a couple of friends of mine were like, Kenny Pickett's the truth. And, God bless him. But the same thing, he was giving Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what this, sometimes guys need to pass the torch. But yeah, he was definitely, they should have moved on after that wild card loss to the Chiefs, in my opinion. But this is where they are. I think Justin Fields has shown in the times that he was the starter that he can be the number one quarterback for Pittsburgh. But it all really depends on what they're going to do this offseason. But no, to answer the question, Mike Tomlin should not be fired. So that's what Man Ashby was talking about. And again, because it's the regular season success, that's kind of glossed a lot. But when you look at his playoff record, you go like Mike, and I heard some people compared him to Doc Rivers. I'm not going to go that far and say he's Doc Rivers. I think that's a stretch. Are there similarities in terms of coaching a team? Sure, but got to understand 82 games versus 18 games, totally different. I think most of it's not just on Mike Tomlin's shoulders. That's just my opinion. So, but ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. This is the first live in a couple years. The last time I did a live was actually before Super Bowl 47 2 years ago. So I'm going to try to do more of these this year. This year, we're really trying to make the podcast a little bit more, instead of just being recorded, try to do more lives, trying to interact with people. And I hope you can interact with me, give me your thoughts. Also, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about this game, who you're picking this weekend between the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. We will do a preview of the game sometime Friday or Saturday. So definitely tune in for that. Also, with Maryland women's basketball last night, you could follow my content on mdsportsblog.com, the recap of the Maryland women's basketball game last night for the victory over the Golden Gophers is up. I will be covering the game virtually this upcoming Monday for them as they travel to New Jersey for the Carter Scott King tournament, as I talked about earlier in the introduction. You can also follow me check me out on TeamNBSMedia. You can also follow all the great content creators over there as well. A lot of great conversations. Shout out to Sean Spencer, Scott Thieler, Ben, Ravioli Sports. Appreciate y'all hopping in. To the other viewers, I cannot see them on X. Thank you guys for stopping by. It's much appreciated. We're doing some great things. Tomorrow, watch the Commanders recap against those Buccaneers. Will be up as well. I'm going to try to go a little live earlier, probably around somewhere between 8 and 9, but we'll post an announcement on the YouTube channel. As far as the podcast goes for Spotify and Apple, those episodes, we're actually getting caught up. So hopefully by the end of January, we should be caught up to all episodes. We're now at 430 altogether. So I can't believe that. Yes, and then we have a couple interviews coming up for the podcast, so definitely check those out. But again, please like, comment, and subscribe for all the content. I appreciate Sean Spencer. Thank you. I'll reach out to you. Much appreciated. Washington, Baltimore, and Super Bowl. That'd be nice. A DMV Super Bowl. I-95. The I-95 Bowl. That'll be something to watch for sure. But yeah, we'll definitely check in for more content. But until then, please like, comment, and subscribe for our future content for the podcast. I thank you for your support. Happy New Year. Hope 2025 is a good year for you and a good year for us all. Remember, it's not about the sprint. It's about finishing the marathon. There's going to be bumps. There's going to be obstacles. But take each day as a new day. Talk to you soon. Peace. Stay out. Producers, get me out of here.
I know that loving me wasn't always easy. And you felt like walking away when you couldn't see me. Felt like.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you. I know that loving me wasn't always easy. And you felt like walking away when you couldn't see me. Felt like all your hope was gone. But I'm right here on bended knee. Please be my wife and stay with me. Please take my hand through stormy weather. We will stay. Yeah. Let me be the one you. When you need me, I'll be there. Just to let you know that I really, 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 really do care. Yeah. Baby, I promise. Baby, I promise. I'll be right here for you. No matter the problem. No matter the problem, baby. I'll be here by your side. 'Cause the love we share can never be denied. Denied.